here. This is and Universal Sister. You're about to hear words talking about wellness and well-being. How well are we all these days? Who can say they're truly well? Hmm? Who can say I experience well-being and wellness? There's actually a great difference between well being and wellness. Yeah, yeah, I thought as much. So, words from the heart of Anne, the universal sister. Wellness, well being, and wellness. What do these two different terms signify to us when we talk well being? What comes to our attention? Hmm? Being well being. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So we're gonna do that. But first of all, I had the song I was listening to. Guess who is dancing? President of Nigeria. The one and only Ahmed Tinubu. Thinking along those lines, and I think that the guy is experiencing wellness, maybe not well-being, because well-being encompasses all the aspects of the human person, whereas wellness dwells a bit more on the physical, what we can see and experience. So here's the guy. Hopefully he's enjoying wellness. See, your president is dancing wogo bongo. Wahala no dey finish for this country. Ah, I was happy for the man, oh, in spite of what others will be thinking. Others are putting in the comment section, wicked man, this one or that. You're the one that will bring issues of unwellness to you. When you continue to concentrate on people like this, they'll be soaring and doing well, whereas you'll be there wallowing in anger. This life is very mysterious. Wait, let's enjoy it one more time. Oh my god, okay, Mr. Tinubu. Get a rest. Let's talk about what we are here for. So I think that's a good description of wellness. That's what Tinubu is just displaying there in his stance. He may not be totally in this aspect of well-being. So in wellness, people just look at the physical things that they can see. Wellness. So somebody is coming in front of you and at least looking at their face and body, it's just okay. They may have a little physical ailment or something, but hence it's just on the physical level. Then we are trying to describe wellness. But when we move beyond wellness to talk about well being, we're talking about many other aspects of the human person. Being, because when we say being, we try to look at the mind, the soul, and all the faculties of the human person, the intellect, the will, the emotion, and things like that. So, well being is on a broader spectrum than wellness. Okay? In earnest, we're simply trying to draw our attention to what it means to experience wellness or well being. We might even ask, do we prefer wellness to well being? From the little explanation I've given, I would think that experiencing well being would be the best option for us to look at, or want to experience. Because wellness is just simply what we can see, and the human person or life in general goes beyond what the eyes can see. Because many times people can even be ill internally and yet they don't even know what is going on with them. Well being necessarily may not also be what we can really see with the eye nor feel, but the body talks. Sometimes people will just wake up or you're just chatting with them, they're like, oh, I don't even know how my body feels. I'm just off today. Have you heard those words? I feel off today. I'm down and this. Yet you can't measure any particular thing that they're trying to talk about, but their body is talking to them. You know, that brings us to the spiritual angle, which I didn't really mention, but that encompasses the well being we're trying to talk about. So, people like to see things happen in the spiritual realm before we even begin to experience them on the physical level. So, that's what those people may be referring to when they say my body feels somehow. Oh, today is just not gonna be nice. Or sometimes they say I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Those are heavy words that carry serious meaning. Waking up on the wrong side of the bed does not necessarily mean that maybe you slept on the wrong side, your pillow was off, and maybe your neck is just all of that. They say well being also incorporates satisfaction, you know, including the physical aspect, the mental, the spiritual that I have just added to this whole band spectrum of well being. Wellness is on the low, you know, it dwells on people's way of life, you know, just on the physical, the ability to live or just experience life. So we want to see we will stick with well-being because well-being also encompasses the physical that wellness talks about. So we want to build up on that ladder to say for a human person to be whole or experience this wholeness in life, they have to be on that broad spectrum of well-being. You know, this is a topic that can even cover like 3 or 4 videos, but we'll try to like see how we can compress these whole aspects we've talked about on the broad spectrum of well-being. And then on wellness, I'm gonna mention one thing that people keep talking about or hammering on these days. So I'm someone who is really on that spectrum of spirituality, of which these days many people say they are not religious, but they are spiritual, meaning they engage spiritually as human beings because there's no human being who cannot, who may not experience spirituality, even though some of us may not really be practicing or dwell on it. But that is something we really need to be building up on. Because any human being who goes living life spiritual less is like an empty person, because those special things that happen on the spiritual level you will not experience. You will be shallow, shallow. You're just on that level of wellness. You're not experiencing well being that gives you satisfaction, that gives you value for the life you are living. And that's the problem we have in society today. People do not value the sense of life that God has given them. They go on living like life anyhow. Like someone says, some human beings hardly think nor reason. They just live on that plane. You call them this way, they go. You call them that way, they go. Or they're just in one place, you know. And somebody was sharing earlier today, like, now we are living life. Some people think like life is a bed of roses or should be a bed of roses. When they undergo issues, they're like, why is my case different? Why is this happening to me? Look at the other person. Look at this one. Do you know the story of their life? Do you know what they have undergone? Undergone. So for people who are on that level of well-being, these are men and women, human beings who have had their own life toil. They have learned from these things and have grown. That's why you see them there. So no two human beings are ever alike. You are uniquely you, and I am uniquely me. No one can be me. And God has not fashioned anybody to exist like me. When we are building up well-being, we should be bearing these things in mind. I am me, you are you. Hence, our two lives will never tally, or the mysteries surrounding our life's experience will never be the same. So I want us to be thinking on that broad spectrum of well-being. That's what we want to achieve as human beings, right? So let's touch on the spiritual. Hence, we have all agreed that well being should be the thing for us. Who is a spiritual man or woman? Who is that spiritual person? A spiritual person is this person who has come to the awareness of something greater or bigger than him or her, that even if their great resides within them as human beings. Spirituality is the heartbeat of the human being. We are like God, who is divine. We have that divinity of God right inside of us. And yet, many times we fail to realize that we carry something within us. Even though St. Paul puts it's like earthen vessels. St. Paul uses the term earthen vessels. And many times we also say you are clay or you are dust, and unto dust you return. So we're always thinking that, fine, the human body is not perfect. One day it's gonna dissolve and go back to the form in which it first arose, you know. But then, even though we are earthen vessels, we carry within us treasure, the treasure that God has put deep within us. That's how St. Paul describes it in one of his epistles. 18 vessels, yet containing God's treasure. So that spiritual entity in every human being is a treasure within us. And many people have not found the treasure, even though some people who are finding that treasure in the earthen vessel that we are say they're not religious because they do not want to practice all those religious things that normally go with being spiritual. They just want to experience spirituality by getting involved in nature, silence, contemplation, solitude, you know, and just being. That's the level many people want. Some people too are taking up all these Eastern practices, which also encompasses contemplation, yoga, meditation, and many beautiful things, So we ought to encourage ourselves to be on that spiritual plane if we want to be on the path to experiencing well being. That being said, we move on to the next key that makes for well being. Let's talk about satisfaction. When someone is satisfied, it means that to an extent, or we could say 80 over 100, you're satisfied with life. And what makes life to be satisfactory for you? It would be that at least you have a job, you have money, you have a family that you love and care for, you value life, and hence you uphold human dignity and human life. Okay? They say to be in that state of well being is also being able to engage in the things that enhance life. What are the things that enhance life? They could be ritualistic things. That's the things we do every day that keep our body and soul intact. For many people, exercise is one of those things. So they exercise daily, weekly, monthly, and things like that. They are able to eat and nourish their body. That's another aspect. They live life relationally. That's another way. They're in good terms with other people in the community. People know them, appreciate them, likewise them knowing other people and appreciating them. Another thing that can uphold us on that path would be the sense that you were created for a reason. They have purpose in life. That goes very well with satisfaction. It is when someone knows that I was created for this purpose. I was put in this world for something, and they are on that path to realizing why God put them on earth in the first place. You see, what is your purpose in life? What is the purpose of Anne, the Universal Sister? My purpose in life is to use my God given gifts, talents to enrich the world and the people around me. And that is why you see me here. I'm utilizing one of my gifts of speech to reach out to people. Yes, that's my purpose. What is your purpose? Ask yourself that question after this whole experience, and you will see what you will find out from that. We move on from the spiritual to another angle, emotional. Our emotion many times speak louder than the words we say. Something may happen, and I may not necessarily use words. I'll just burst forth and just, react instead of responding. We should or ought to try to be people who respond to situations, to be responsive rather than reacting or being reactive. When we are reactive in life situations, it means we have not really imbibed these little things we have been able to explain or come up with on that broad spectrum of well being. Reaction is always negative. The best bet we can get that can put us on that track to experiencing well being would be responding to life's situation. How do you respond to, say, maybe a situation whereby you don't have a job, things are not moving well for you? How do you respond? Or do we not normally become morose, depressed, and so on and so forth? Until maybe something spurs us on and puts us back on that track of positivity. Like we earlier on today, I've been thinking of my personal situations and bearing around where I am. Oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? It was even difficult to just put myself on that spot for prayer, And then I spoke with someone, and the person actually reminded me life is not a bed of roses. It's not that every time something arises, you get morose, depressed, or whatever. No, always remember that there is a reason for everything that happens in life. Don't always be expecting that things will always be straightforward. Life is mysterious. It can go around in circle. What matters is us staying put, still, not necessarily in prayer, but in that understanding that stillness will bring you to a point of trying to fine tune the situation you have found yourself in. You're able to think and come to terms with your situation. That is what being responsive would be. Responding, attuning yourself to the situation in a positive light, not backing out or shouting when something happens, but just wonder, why is this happening in the first place? So that's the best bit, emotion wise. Psychologically, we go to thinking and all those things. How does your mental state affect your life situation? It also flows together. This whole well-being thing. This makes us arrive at a well-being. Are you a well-being? Am I one? Mental state matters a lot. So these days you hear people talking about, oh, consider your mental state, consider your mental state, consider your mental state. Wow. It's not that anything that happens can affect people's mental state. No, it should draw from your spiritual residue, your emotion. All these things, if they are well put, will give you a good space for positive mental, as we can, let's say, I want to put it this way: being connected spiritually and letting your emotions be responsive helps you achieve a good mental state. So when you're well connected spiritually, not necessarily with God, prayer, or you experiencing that inner peace is what I'm trying to talk about here. That can stabilize your mental state no matter what happens. You won't be drawn beyond your capacity. You won't find yourself being depressed or going high on that scale of mental issues. We talk about stress. Some people, once they hear stress, they are put off. But we do have what is called positive stress. Let's say one is getting married. That whole hula baloo preparation, your mind is not here. You're like, oh, let's get this thing. Yeah. That is positive stress. You gain admission to get into college, even though the money may not be there. This whole moving around, searching, and trying to make things come together is positive. You're studying. People say, oh, the stress exam is around the corner, this, that. That is positive stress because you know that at the end of the day, you are reading to achieve a particular purpose in life. So when we experience positive stress, it can never lead to any mental degeneration. When people begin to talk about any small thing that happens in the family, you better leave or you better do this, consider your mental health. That's like the new language in town. Positive stress will never affect your mental state negatively. Positive stress is gonna even build you up, enhance your capacity for resilience, the strength to withstand negative situation or negative stress if eventually your positive stress leads to negative stress. So let's all stop this new language because they say mental issues are escalating. This is anybody that has one problem. Consider your mental state. Consider your mental state. Mm-mm. Don't worry, your mental state is in order. Hence, you remain balanced in your thinking pattern. That's something I want to say like consistency is the key to maintaining your mental balance no matter what happens. Are you consistent on that part of spirituality? Not necessarily going to church every Sunday, going to mosque or wherever it is that you worship. Being attuned as a human being that you are spiritual first and foremost before considering this physical nature or world that we are used to. Every human being has a spiritual inclination. If you're not spiritual, you don't have value for life at all. You don't have satisfaction. Even though we will not necessarily be satisfied 100% all the time, to an extent, human beings always can be satisfied. It falls, it goes up, it's never stable. Human satisfaction or value or appreciation for life or whatever it is that we have. At least sometimes we can have friends who will make us happy, we do things together. Many times the friends move away, you move on with your life. From those wonderful experiences you've gained from your friendship, put them together. Put them. Those are the beautiful experiences you can look back at and say, at least I had good friends. So life is not a bed of roses. Sometimes it can stick out with thorns, touch us here and there. Other times it can become better. So that's why we all need to come together to realize or put all these whole things to enable us be on that path of well-being. Because if you just remain on the path of wellness, then your mental capacity will be at stake, spirituality null and void, you are emotionless. Many people we have today in our world that are emotionless. Sometimes we call them narcissists. Whatever is happening around them, they're like, is it my business? Is it my business? After all, I'm okay. No, that's the worst mentality any human being can afford to have. That nothing around concerns you. It concerns all of us. Even though the war may be raging in Syria, in Israel, in Ukraine or Russia, Congo, Sudan, you think you're not close to those countries, so it's not your business. No, it's all of our business. Human beings are in this business of life together, whether we like it or not. That's the way God made it. That's the way life corresponds. This unity of the human mind working together to see that good comes out of everything. You see how this nation, the United States, can be. When something happens in another country, they're always there to help and bring people together. Even, let me tell you, to the detriment of their own citizens. come to the US, it's not a bed of roses. We are here. We have seen it for up to 5 years or heading to 5 years. It's not a bed of roses. There are so many issues that people undergo here. You see their government bringing refugees, immigrants, taking care of them, but many times it affects their own people. Their own people do not have enough to help themselves. That's how it's supposed to be. From the surplus of other people, nations, communities, we can help the other people who are terribly marginalized or vulnerable. Wellness, well-being rather, is how we're bringing all these things to focus. Well-being hence talks about the individual, it talks about a small group of people, it talks about communities, it talks about states, nations, and the world. Without that sense of well-being, quality, satisfaction, value, life would be meaningless. So we all need to begin to experience this whole dimension we've been trying to bring together. Well-being as a person, well-being between you and another person or small group or community. Well-being should exist in your family, in the workplace. We should have that sense of well-being and togetherness. In your local community, there should be that sense that what can I do for another person to be okay? Not necessarily always asking the people at the top, the government, what are they going to bring down? Many times, for change to occur, it begins from one person, me, you as an individual, and moves high up the ladder. Okay? That's how change can happen. Change may not happen from a group, it's from one person. One, two, three, four, five, six, and it keeps increasing up to where the supposed leaders are. That's how we should begin to look at these things. Well-being is what we have been trying to come to terms with. And I hope from the little explanations and pointers that I have been able to put forth this time, we can better appreciate well-being. You know, and I would just also share what somebody was sharing today. If we must achieve well-being, we have to begin from little things, as I just explained. As an individual, you need to care for yourself. Think about the things you are ingesting, the things you are drinking. Are they okay for you? Nowadays, the major kind of sickness that is hitting people is things or are things related to food. Nowadays, you hear people say, I'm a vegetarian, I'm vegan, I'm this. That's beautiful that people are beginning to value and appreciate wellness, which leads to well being. You know, so somebody was talking about how sugar, which you find in our food, is really affecting people. Sugar you can find in many situations. The normal sugar you find in the food that you eat. So somebody was saying or sharing health-wise and calling our attention to how it is always sugar issue here and there, sugar issue there. So the person called one, he says, when we find too much sugar in a baby's brain or very young child, the sugar affects them by resulting in something, a health condition called ADHD. I don't know if you've heard of ADHD. It's a kind of complication. You see our children who are very hyperactive. You'll see a child from between 6 or even say 1 year to about 5 years. they will never sit down in one place. They are jumping, 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 shouting. Hey, 1 minute. They look at this and the next thing they are distracted. Hey. It's almost like madness. They will say, leave am nana, small bikini. It is ADHD, too much sugar. That's how the person described it. So these are children who are terribly hyperactive. Take them for testing in hospitals so you know what particularly is wrong with your child. The other way the person talked about, when you find sugar in adult blood, it means diabetes is occurring, and we know how that is really happening amongst people. Recently, I saw someone I used to know years ago, 4 or 5 years. His leg had been amputated, the left leg from the knee down. I just couldn't cry. I was just looking at the email they sent, the picture was there. I'm like, oh God. And then they go on to say that the 5 fingers on the right leg too were all cut off. So when you hear that, what comes to your mind is complications arising from diabetes. Watch what you are eating. Once you are up to 40, sugar should be your enemy. Meats, red meats should be your enemy. Run far away. They showed one very funny stuff on one of the social media. They told the elderly woman, stay far away from meat. And she thought, well, it's just a joke though. Had a very long fork. So the meat was down there in the plate. So she was putting her hand and catching the meat. Is that what the doctor meant by staying far from meat? He meant don't eat meat. But if this thing will not let some of us, it's always running up and down. You find blood or sugar in the body, in different parts of the organs, it becomes cancer. Cancer is a very simple thing, my friends. Some people will hear, God forbid, for fear. It's closer to you than before you do to fear. It's simply when any cell of your body begins to grow out of proportion, replicating itself. What do these guys call it? These guys who deal with this cancer thing. I keep forgetting that term when I want to use it. Oh, it came to my mind a while ago. The way the cells begin to multiply in a cancer state. They proliferate, the cells begin to proliferate and grow malignantly. That's simply what cancer is. It's not a big deal. It's just cells growing out of proportion for whatever reason. So too much of alcohol, smoking, and anything, stay clear from them. You find too much sugar in an adult brain, dementia, Alzheimer's, even though that comes to play towards old age from say 65 and above. But it's real when you find an adult no longer able to coordinate like they used to. Dementia is at its onset stage, Alzheimer's, and so on. You find sugar in the eye, glaucoma. It's too much of that in the eye, glaucoma. You find sugar in the teeth. It leads to holes, according to what we normally say. Cavities are caused by too much sugar. Make sure before you sleep, when you eat, wash off the whole things from your teeth. That way your teeth is safe from cavities. You find sugar in the skin. It is aging, so these things that we put into our body, they matter a lot. You find sugar that prevents you from sleeping. It is insomnia. They're just going on, and the best option they give us for wellness is detoxifying your system from all those things that we keep ingesting, drinking, and thinking we are enjoying life. Tomorrow they say are dying known. Tomorrow they say it's devil. Tomorrow they say it's their village people that remember them. These things are the lifestyle we have chosen, which are not concurring with what we should be doing. Wellness will lead us to well-being. So watch what you eat, what you drink. It's very important, so we can all be on that path to the best bet for us, which is not wellness, which is just on the physical level, but well-being, which encompasses us being spiritual beings, which indeed we are. We are just here. First and foremost, we are spiritual beings. And then we talk about the psychological, your mental state. We talk about our emotion, how you coordinate your behavior. We should be more on the responsive angle, responding to issues, not reacting to issues. Okay? We talk about our intellect, the will, your desires. How are you utilizing your desires? Is it that anything your eyes pops on, a thing you want to do, the thing you want to have? This voraciousness in taking in anything we see. Some people, for them, it is sex, some it is alcohol, some it is, you know, getting wealth and doing things out of proportion. All need to be coordinated, holistic, bringing everything, balancing them together. That is what will lead us on the path of wellness, which indeed we need to be fully rational, you know, to be well put and becoming the best version of ourselves. So that's how we have this, our president. It seems he's still on that path of wellness. That's where we started, and that's how we're going to end. So, you've been hearing the voice of Anne, the Universal Sister. We've talked about wellness, well being. We should all aspire for well being and not just stop at wellness. So, maybe this guy is still experiencing wellness with all that is happening. He can still dance. Hey, the guy is dancing. Well, can you imagine that guy? The guy is dancing. Hey, I think for him that is wellness. He's just on that level of wellness. Dancing and seemingly looking happy is wellness. In his heart, his mind, is he truly okay? That is left for us to answer. Okay, thank you for all those who joined my live. Please share the video, drop your comments, and let us know what you think about wellness and well-being. And finally, subscribe to my channel. Thank you and God bless. See you tomorrow, hopefully. Yo, we're out of here.